The Fox 35 storm team has been working around the clock to bring you everything you need to know about this storm. Meteorologist Brooks Gardner, Jessica Dobson are both joining us now. But Brooks, let's go ahead and start with you. Where is Milton as of right now?
Well, Milton right now is right over Brevard County. It's a Category 1 hurricane. And this one's a little bit of a weird storm as far as how you'd expect things to go, because as it moves out on the backside, I expect winds to be higher than they were as this thing made an approach. So we're in the thick of it with the rain and the flash flooding. We'll get into all that. But once this departs, we're actually going to see a burst of wind for a period of a couple of hours as we head towards sunrise, and maybe shortly after, where we're going to see some of the biggest gusts so far during this storm. So yes, right now it is it's located basically over the Titusville area. It's moving east-northeast at 16 miles per hour. It's got winds of 85 miles per hour officially, although the real wind speeds of the ground are more like 50 miles per hour or so, 50, 55, with higher gusts. So this is really more of a classification to assign it a wind speed to indicate sort of the general strength and general potential of wind gusts. That said, this has been a huge rainmaker, and the rain continues, and we've got just so many branches down around the region. That said, this is going to move east very quickly and eventually move out to sea later today, but it's going to be windy until this afternoon, really windy. Let's talk about the winds right now. In the center, over the last hour, this is now an hour old, so the center's now over Titusville. We had winds about 20 to 30 miles an hour with higher gusts on the east side, like Cocoa Beach, gusting to 70. But look at the west side. Wind gusts between 70 and 80 miles per hour. In the last hour, Leesburg Airport check-in with 81 miles per hour. DeLand 66. This is the biggest wind we've seen. This is hurricane force wind, and this is the kind of wind that can knock out power. So many of us have been lucky so far keeping our power, but the possibility of the bigger branches falling and even some trees after all the rain we've had will become a greater chance as the backside of this moves out. So the good news here is we're almost done with the really torrential rain, but we're still in the thick of it now. We'll take a look at the radar in a second. The good news is we're done with the tornado threat. We had a huge tornado outbreak yesterday, but we're not done with the wind. In fact, through 4:30 in the morning, at about an hour and a half from now, we may see those big 80-mile-per-hour wind gusts working through DeLand and eventually the backside pushing into Kissimmee, 70-mile-per-hour winds there through 7 o'clock. And then look at this. This is what's called a sting jet, just like a bee sting. And as the hurricane moves away, it's interacting with a cold front to the north, and there's a pressure gradient process that happens. It's a really complex meteorological thing, but the bottom line, end of the day, you can get these winds on the backside that are stronger than the winds in the hurricane. So it's called a sting jet, like a little jet stream. And so we could see wind gusts around 6:37 in the morning around daybreak at Daytona, the highest we've seen, up to 90, maybe 100 miles per hour. And so that obviously could have implications on breaking tree branches and pulling trees down. And also with all the rain we've had, it makes the roots a little mushy, right? Makes the ground kind of mud. And so it doesn't take as much to push trees down. Sanford, 87-mile-per-hour winds, that's possible. I mean, that's going to be snapping trees if that happens. Hopefully it doesn't happen, but that's our computer model forecast as a potential. Bithlo, 74-mile-per-hour winds. We could see 80-mile-an-hour gusts in Oviedo. Out of the north, by the way, and that's significant as well because we've had most of the winds as this approached out of the east-southeast, eventually the east and the northeast, but now we're going to start to see the winds out of the north-northwest, so a direction that we haven't seen the wind blow, which is going to stress trees on the other side of things, right? If they were strong in one direction, maybe they're not as strong in the other direction. So there's so many considerations. Bottom line is it's not going to be safe to venture out into the storm, even when the sun comes up, for a couple of hours until that sting jet moves east by 8:30 or 9 o'clock, finally approaching and clearing the coast. We're still going to catch those wind gusts to 80 or so by 8:30 in the morning, but look on the backside, things start to improve. By the middle of the morning, wind gusts down to 35 or 40 miles an hour. I think by lunchtime it's going to be safe to go out there. As far as if you got to drive around, it's not going to be as dire. Of course, safe is kind of a loosely used term because, well, with the wind we're getting, a lot of the tree limbs have kind of half broken, half snapped, and maybe they'll fully come down later. So it's just one of those days you don't want to be like under the trees cleaning up sticks under big old oak trees before the wind is actually done blowing, because you never know if there's going to be another branch that falls, right? So just be aware of that. Maybe wait till wait till tomorrow or the next day to start the actual cleanup of limbs and stuff if you're under big trees. By 4:30 this afternoon, we're going to be back down to more of our typical winds out of the north, about 25 miles an hour. All right, let's talk radar. Here's a look at Fox 35 Storm Tracker radar. The heavy rain, the heavy flooding rain moving through Daytona Beach, down through Deltona, I-4, including Lake Mary right now, where we're broadcasting from. It's absolutely pouring outside, down to Orlando. But the rain starts to lighten up once you get into Claremont. The whole region's under a flash flood warning, and we've got flash flood emergencies back toward the west, where there have been water rescues toward the Tampa region, and a lot of wind damage, because remember, the hurricane came from that side, crossing over. But we could see some pretty serious flash flooding continuing here in Volusia County, up and down I-4 and I-95, and into Seminole County. As far as rainfall over the last 24 hours, we've had anywhere from 10 to 15 inches of rain, especially Zephyr Hills, Lakeland, Disney, Orlando, and then that's going to be working in and probably increasing so far about maybe 9 to 10 inches here across Seminole County and Volusia County, with lesser amounts to the south. We're also looking at a storm surge potential that's going to be going up, and this is something that we're going to be talking about. Jessica's going to look at some of these impacts, but as the hurricane makes its way offshore the next couple of hours, and we have a high tide coming our way this afternoon at 3 o'clock, we could see storm surge 2 to 4 feet, maybe up to 5 feet.